A long time ago, my grandmother said, I'd rather be sorry for something I did than something I didn't do. And that's a mantra that I've just kept with me throughout my life and tried to live by it, when we have kind of big decisions to make. And so, at this point, 13 months into living in East Africa, I'm not sure I could even imagine having not had this experience.
Brian Fassett and I first met at work in my former career in international relief and development. We'd been out of touch for years until he responded to a blog I posted on LinkedIn, looking for guests for this sabbatical show. Brian and his wife Kate and their two daughters, ages 7 and 10, were in Uganda wrapping up their family sabbatical. When we recorded this interview, they were getting ready to head back home to Portland, Oregon, after 14 months of living in northern Uganda. As a single-income family, their way to make a sabbatical work financially was for Brian to find a job overseas. He'd been working as the operations director for a small social enterprise that offers microfinance to farmers. What's unique about their sabbatical story is how deep they went into a totally new cultural experience as a family. What's also special about this interview is that it offers a window into the emotions and reflections at the tail end of a sabbatical experience in a place as different, special, and challenging as rural Uganda. I'm Lisa Hoashi, and this is Leap Like Me, the show about the leaps people take to make the most of this amazing life. Brian and Kate, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Lisa.
You guys are calling in today from a very special place and at a very important point in your journey. And Brian, I wonder if you would set the scene for us.
Yeah, so we are in Gulu in northern Uganda. It's about 6 hours north of the capital. And today I just had my last day of work. Sunday, we leave Gulu for the capital, and a week from now, we fly back to the US. And I've spent the last 13 months here as the operations director for a small US-based nonprofit called Bicycles Against Poverty.
And how's it feel to be wrapping up this time in Uganda?
For me, it's been some mixed feelings. 13 months away from home is a long time, especially with, two young girls who are now 10 and 7. And it's also a bit of a challenge for me because we came here originally on an 18-month contract. And in January of this year, we decided that we would not be able to honor that contract because our girls' schooling situation fell apart. And so Kate's been homeschooling them since January, and we just decided we needed to get them back to school to start the school year in Oregon. On the other hand, our organization had the best year in history. I mean, it's a young organization, only 4 years old, but we did lots of great things.
Kate, how are you feeling at this point?
I surprisingly feel, I think if I go back a few months when I was homeschooling and kind of feeling a little stuck, I was waiting for time to speed up a little bit. And now I just feel like it's just going too fast. And I feel like there's so many things that I still want to follow up with. There's people that I feel like I want to make sure I've lived up to any promises I've made to, and there's just not enough time. That's what it feels like to me right now. And time moves so slowly here, and things move so slowly, and it feels like I don't have enough time to make everything happen before we leave. And I think you have to live in this part of the world for a really long time to really see things through from start to finish. And so it's hard. Like, I'm really eager to get my girls into a school that's more appropriate for them. And I'm eager to see my family and my friends. I also feel that there are just so many lessons that we're all learning, and they're just starting to take hold in our psyches, if that makes sense. The value of people and the value of slowing down and the value of not focusing on things and like all those things that we wanted for ourselves and for our children, they've been building gradually. And I hope we can continue to build on them, but I'm a little afraid of losing some of it when we go back home.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 3 going away parties. I mean, we have another one coming up, and it's just such a formal process to really respect and honor the relationships that we've built with so many people, and to really give a full farewell both to our friends and our coworkers and the culture and the lifestyle, which in 13 months we've really come to appreciate and love. I mean, Kate was just saying the other day that she had this experience where the language that we've been trying to learn now for the last year is really starting to click for her. You know, she's just now getting to a point where she feels some fluidity with it. And that's, you know, just coming right at the end.
And what is the local language there?
So Uganda has many languages, and I can't seem to get a clear answer on exactly how many because there's so many. But the language spoken in this region of northern Uganda is Acholi, and it is a tonal language with a much smaller vocabulary than more well-known foreign languages. But every word has multiple meanings based on context and based on the tone that you use. And it's a very, I don't know if I could use the word guttural language, but you kind of just, it comes from your belly. And it took me a while to get to a point my friends would be like, just say it louder and stronger, you know, like you don't say it in this polite, mild way. And it's kind of a fun language, but it's not easy.
Would you be bold enough to say, hi, my name is Kate?
Sure. Afoyo itinining Ania Katie.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love it. That's a big accomplishment. Brian, when you and I first chatted, you had mentioned that you had nearly decided to kind of let go of this dream of going with your family abroad. What do you think would have been the impact on you if you guys hadn't gone through with this?
Yeah, you know, we had lived as Peace Corps volunteers, and that was now 12 years ago. And since, you know, we'd had 2 kids and I went to graduate school and I was in a good job and had just got a great promotion. And honestly, you know, when Kate kind of brought this idea up again, I had kind of let go of it. I thought that, you know, it was something that would either need to happen much later in life, or maybe it was just one of the things that wasn't feasible anymore. And so it took me a little while to come around to the idea. And it was just interesting, kind of the synergy that we had, because she had some time at home during the day. And so she did a lot of the job searching for me. And then at night, when I got home from work or on the weekends, I would do job applications. And, you know, at night and on the primarily at night or early in the morning, I would do interviews. And the job search process, I applied to 10 or 12 different places over the course of about 18 months. I ended up having a job interview where they flew me to Kenya and Ethiopia. But, you know, as I started building momentum and I let my manager at the time know that this was the dream that we had, and we weren't sure how long it would take to realize it. And because I, you know, on very short notice needed to fly halfway around the world. And she was really supporting and genuinely interested. And so that made it easier, though it was still challenging leaving such a good work environment. But I guess, you know, a long time ago, my grandmother said, I'd rather be sorry for something I did than something I didn't do. And that's a mantra that I've just kept with me throughout my life, and tried to live by it. When we have kind of big decisions to make. And so, at this point, 13 months into living in East Africa, I'm not sure I could even imagine having not had this experience. And I'm really thankful that we had, and that together the four of us were able to work together, because it took effort on all of our parts. And before we left, the girls were really excited about going. I mean, they had no idea. They'd been out of the country one time before, and it was a positive experience, but it was to Eastern Europe. And I mean, neither of us had ever been to Uganda. And I had a friend and former coworker from Mercy Corps who had actually been in the town that we ended up here in Gulu that we ended up living in. And she could vouch for it being a good place for a family, and had a good market and a few good restaurants and one good grocery store. And so, based on her recommendation, we took the leap.
So I hear for both of you that there's it's just a bittersweet parting. And I'm curious to hear, what do you think will be one of the most important things you'd really like to hang on to from this experience?
Maybe I'll go to sick days. So where we are, when we have gotten sick, our Acholi friends come and visit, and they always visit. And they bring things like lemons that have vitamin C, or they bring juice, or they bring whatever they have. And they stay with you, and they just chat with you and check on you. Sorry, I feel emotional. And I just think about at home in the US, when you're sick, people don't want to get your germs, so they don't come over. And here, people check on you because they don't know if you might live or die, because things are serious, and because they really believe that by coming to be with you, it helps you get well. And I feel like it just embodies the culture so much.
Yeah, that I feel touched just hearing that, because I noticed that even just in my own new culture here in Catalonia, in the US, there's definitely a big distance when people are sick, and it can feel a little isolating, like you say.
Yeah, I just think people, they put so much focus on connection, and it comes at times when things are good and times when things are bad. And I'm just as guilty of being a busy Westerner as anyone else in my culture. But I just know it's going to feel harder to go away and not have that as much at home.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting and novel experiences we have. When you asked the question initially, one of the things that I thought of was how many times I've been taking a picture of someone who is taking a picture of me. I mean, we are a big novelty, which at times it's kind of fun and endearing, and at times it's exhausting. Yeah. I mean, we were driving past a group of kids tonight, and everybody was like, oh, look at here in the local language, they call us Munu or Mzungu. Mzungu is a Swahili word for foreigner. And we hear that word a lot, as if we didn't know we were, but it's just so surprising to them, because they just don't see that many white people. And I can't even tell you how many babies I've made cry because they haven't seen, a guy with a beard, or somebody with my complexion, or somebody that's my height, or whatever it is, or the combination of all of those things. And it's just that surprising to them. Every other time I've lived or worked overseas, I've spent a lot of time writing, and I really wish that I had some more time to write, just to process some of this, because there isn't a single day that goes by that I couldn't just sit down and reflect on, one or two or three experiences that I had that were really profound and unique and different and life-changing.
So when you guys originally set out on your journey, what were some of the intentions that you had?
So Brian and I, we met very young. We were just around 20 years old, and we were both on a study abroad trip in Ecuador. And we started seeing each other there and got more serious and traveled all throughout South America. And then we got married, and then we became Peace Corps volunteers and lived in Eastern Europe and traveled all over that area. And then we had children. And so the next decade of our 30s was relatively lacking in international experiences. And we tried hosting exchange students. We hosted 6 different students for shorter periods, like 2 to 3 weeks. And it was a State Department program. And it felt like this little opportunity to connect to the world in a cheaper and less cumbersome way than, trying to travel with young kids. And we just had this deep desire to rekindle that part of our lives when we first met and as we were, becoming adults together through the world. And we couldn't figure out any way to do it that we could afford other than one of us getting a job somewhere. And I had been primarily staying home with the girls. Brian had more immediately marketable skills. So he got the job. So part of it was just wanting this experience again of that feeling more alive by being in a cross-cultural experience and sharing it with our kids. And I think another part was I was getting close to 40 and I was like, I want to continue to feel like I'm adaptable. I feel like staying adaptable and flexible and being curious is like the way to prevent becoming rigid as I age. And I just wanted to kind of shake up my world a little bit and see how brave I could be. And we live in a really comfortable, affluent suburb. And I wanted my children to see another version of life so that, I don't know. I mean, not necessarily so that they appreciate what they have, because I'm not sure you can make people feel that. But I just want them to see all the different ways life happen in the world and to not think that the way we live and lived in the US is the best way, the only way, the way everyone wants. I want them to see people striving for all sorts of different ways of living.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say there, but yeah.
It resonates. Brian, for you both personally and for your family, what were some of the things that you wanted out of the experience?
Yeah, I had spent the last 7 years working in a corporate setting, and I had a great work environment. I had a great job. I had great coworkers, a great manager, but it felt like the right time for our family. We were kind of cognizant of the fact that, trying to move teenagers, uproot them out of their home and their friend circle and their school activities and all of that would be more challenging than uprooting younger children. And interestingly, initially, we kind of thought this would be the first of multiple international jobs. And what we realized in the time that we've been here is that these 13 months, at least for now, are enough. Kate and I have talked a little bit about once the girls are in college, that maybe we'll do the Peace Corps again or do something similar. And we may get adventurous and do something even before that. But I think for an experience from the kids' perspective, I think we've achieved what we were hoping to. I mean, these girls will eat any food that we put in front of them without questioning what it is. They can use any kind of bathroom or toilet facility that exists, including none at all. They are incredibly patient. I mean, there are times when we will literally wait 2.5 hours from the time we sit down at a restaurant until our food arrives, because they're literally making it from scratch at the point that we order. And the girls can just go with all of that. And that makes me really proud. I hope that they hold on to that, and we together as a family can hold on to that. And as Kate mentioned, we are really lucky where we come from and in our life. And we wanted them to see how, honestly, the majority of the world lives. It's not like that. And it was a good reminder for us as well. I mean, we regularly have what we call the trifecta, where the water's out, the power's out, and the internet's out. And yet we live. And surprisingly, extended power outages 2 or 3 days at a time, that doesn't even faze us anymore. Having the water out for multiple days gets a little interesting with, doing dishes in wash basins with jerry cans of water and that kind of thing. But it was just a good reminder of what we really need and what are luxuries. It's refreshing to see how happy people are when they are cooking over a wood fire in a grass thatch house in the village. And we're meeting people who are 90 years old and still doing manual farming every day with these great hugs and smiles and handshakes. And you can just tell that they've had a great life. And it's been really rewarding.
Your girls are a super important part of this journey, and I'd love to hear, maybe Kate could field this one. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in them?
I was looking at some pictures on the computer of what they looked like when we were leaving the US and what they look like now, because I was trying to think how people will remember them from when we left. And there's definitely like physical changes. They've grown and they currently have their hair braided with a weave, so, and they love to wear the local fabrics, and, they just, from the outside, they look different now. And I wonder how much of that they'll hold on to. I love the fact that they want to blend in by wearing local clothing and doing their hair like people here. To me, it shows an acceptance and a desire to be part of things, which is what I hoped they'd feel. I think they are so worldly now. I mean, we were in the car the other day driving through just, masses of people, because there's just people everywhere on the roads. And, my 10-year-old is like, so can we talk about what a developing country is and why it's called developing, and we talked about, and so we're talking about different utilities and how, why does this happen differently in a developed country versus a developing, and what are the roots of that, and how does that come about? And the types of conversations that we've been able to have from living here, it's just incredible. The way they understand power sources and water sources and cultural, historical roots of different practices and different cultures and tribal practices. And I mean, I've tried to keep them up with long division and reading and stuff, but at the same time, they have learned so much, and we've learned it together, which has been really fun too.
And as you guys get ready to go home, like given how integrated your girls are right now, have you guys thought about how to help them navigate the change of going home? Or how are you preparing yourselves as well? Because you guys have both been overseas for a time and come back home, and that can be a bit of a shock.
I mean, we have been thinking about it. We've been thinking about culture shock and culture stress and reentry shock and all of those things that Kate and I both learned intellectually as study abroad students in high school and college, and as we were Peace Corps volunteers. And Kate and I both read a book here called At Home in the World, which was about a woman who was from Oregon. She and her husband and their kids spent 9 months traveling around the world. And the nature of their travel was different than what we decided to do. They were stopping in a lot of places, and we really wanted to be in one place and fully immersed. But she had some great questions at the end of the book to think about that process of going home. We've also been reading a book called Third Culture Kids, which has some good practical advice about helping children re-enter and helping them answer the questions that they will inevitably get, and then also helping them ask questions of their peers. What have you been doing in the last year, and so that it's not a one-sided conversation. It will be hard. I think I'm in a bit of a denial about it. I'm in the process of interviewing for other jobs, and so to some extent, I'll just kind of take the easy road out and probably jump from this job right into another job, and so Kate will bear more of the burden of kind of emotionally guiding the girls through this process. Though we'll all be experiencing and going through it together. But we really only have 2 weeks from the time we get home until they start school, and that'll be about the same amount of time until hopefully I start a new job. And so, in a perfect world, we'd probably give ourselves more time for transition. I think it's a conversation that we will continue to have, and I think we're going to gravitate towards people who have had similar experiences and can relate to that. And just like we've gravitated towards a few friends here who are really curious and interested and just sincerely want to be with us, I think we'll find those people back in the US and really rely on them to help us ease that transition back into American life, while still really holding on to the things that we most appreciate and enjoy and have developed and don't want to lose about our lives and our personalities and our experience here in Uganda.
I was just going to add about the girls' transition home. So when we left home, they were 6 years old and 8 years old. And our older child has had 2 birthdays here. She turned 9 right when we arrived, and she just turned 10 at the end of June. And so our older daughter has a very clear expectation of what home is going to be like, and she remembers her life. And I think her challenge might be that it's not exactly the same as what it felt like before, and that she'll be a little different. But for our younger daughter, I think her challenge is that because she was so young leaving, things are a little harder for her to picture at home. She's also just a child who is very in the moment in general. That's her personality. And so I think she's struggling with, like, remind me what home is like, Mom, And I think some of her emotional roller coaster that she's going through right now is she's leaving something that's been familiar and going back to something that's supposed to be quote unquote home, but it feels foreign to her.
Yeah. So it's been so fun to talk with you guys. I am sad to have to start wrapping up our interview. I have 3 questions for you each. And the first question that I have for you is, what do you wish you had known before you took this leap?
So for me, what I wish I would have known is how much I was going to want to get involved in working and volunteering when we were here. I expected to be really content having a lot of cultural experiences and spending a lot of time with our kids. And I thought homeschooling was going to be, sort of this, this special time in our lives. But what I found was that I'm a social worker by trade. And once I got here, I was just blown away by how many really exciting and inspirational projects are going on in this community. And I just really wanted to get more involved. So I didn't expect that I would have that desire feel so strong during our time here.
I can hear that in your voice. You just wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
Brian, how about you? What do you wish you had known before you took your leave?
Thinking about, I don't know if we would have come here and stayed here had we visited first. I think I'm glad that we really did take a leap. There's an African proverb about testing the depth of the water with both feet. I think we did that. I read a quote by T.S. Eliot that said, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but essentially until you're in over your head, how do you know how tall you are? And I think, honestly, the only thing looking back that I wish I had known was realistically how many hours of the day and how many hours of the night and how many hours of the weekend would be expected for me at work. I had a little bit better work-life balance back in the US than I did here. I was coming into an office here where my coworkers were working 6 days a week, and often, up to 9 or 10 hours a day. And I didn't realize how that would impact how much time I was working or would be needed or expected or feel compelled to work when I was here.
Yeah. Kate, what was the most unexpected thing that came of your leap?
I would say it was finding an expat community that was primarily missionaries. And several of them have now become very dear friends of mine. But in the beginning, when we first came, you stand out a lot as a white person. And then in the white community, I didn't feel like I fit in. And so it was a tricky place for me to be for the first few months, not quite knowing how to find my community. And I think it's just probably a result of any transitional stress, you're not sure where you fit in, but it took time and maybe a little bit longer because of some of those dynamics.
Brian, how about for you? What was the most unexpected thing?
Monday night, my coworkers surprised me with a going away party. And it was overwhelming for me. The amount of appreciation and respect and care that they showed for me was something I've never experienced before. Every single one of them had a gift for me, and many of them brought gifts for Kate and for the girls. I'm just amazed at how kind all of them are and how demonstrative they are about their feelings. I think it's something that we've lost a little bit in the American workplace, where we don't really say completely what we're feeling. We're always kind of holding ourselves back a little bit.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So the last question is, for someone who's thinking of taking a similar risk, what's the one piece of advice you'd offer them?
I think for me, something that has just been so vital is I have a really amazing counselor that I used to meet with at home every once in a while. And we continued over the phone about once a month here. And it just has been very grounding for me to have somebody very objective to process all the feelings and all the things that are coming up. And I just could not recommend it more to maybe establish a relationship with someone before you go, so you have somebody to reach out to once you get, as we say, in over your head.
Brian, how about you?
Our biggest monthly expense is internet, and I think that is money well spent. It feels like a lavish luxury, but it's been really useful. It's helped, keep us well connected at home. And one of the things that we did was we got a Wi-Fi based US phone number that we can use here to make calls to the US and to receive calls from the US at no cost. And, so if somebody's thinking about being overseas for an extended period of time, I would say, if you want to stay connected with home, having a phone like that is, for us, it's been priceless. For the girls to stay in touch with the grandparents, and for, the job search, and for talking to doctors, and for talking to counselors, and just all of those things, it's given us a lot of peace of mind, and has made what sometimes feels like, really challenging existence a lot easier to handle.
And I'm grateful for that as well, because it has allowed us to connect today. And I'm so grateful for both of you for sharing your story. I wish I could extend this so much longer and ask you guys so many other questions. You guys have had such a rich experience, and thank you again. I also wish you guys very safe travels, and that all of the travel logistics that you're probably about to endure go smoothly. I can only imagine with all those gifts, how many suitcases you're having to take home.
Yeah,
It's
true.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I hope anybody who wants to do this does it, because all of the work is so worth it.
That's a wrap for today's show. Thanks for listening. Don't forget that you can head over to lisahawashi.com to look at the show notes, photos of Kate, Brian, and their kids in Uganda, and also to get a little update that they sent along about how it's been to be back home. If you're enjoying the show and the stories that we've been bringing you, please do leave us a review on iTunes. That helps us to grow our audience and reach more people. And also spread the word among your friends and family. We sure do appreciate that. If you've got your own Leap idea and would like some support, join our Leap Like Me community on Facebook, or get in touch with me directly at lisahawashi.com, or by sending me a quick message at Lisa Hawashi on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We'll be back next week with a new show. Until then, thanks for listening to Leap Like Me.